So I am going to do 20 years of the Center on Law and Poverty in about 5 minutes. And I just want to start by talking about our vision. And in New Mexico, I think all of us live with this great advantage of having a broad horizon and a big view. And where I work and where we work, we actually have a vision of New Mexico without poverty. And we have a vision of our state where everyone's basic human rights are met. And we're talking about housing and food and education and access to quality health care. And we're talking about a good wage in a safe job. And we're talking about access to the courts when you need it. And sometimes we see our job as sort of pushing our way up a mountain. And I was asked not to mention it tonight, but at the center, we sometimes like to think of the dung beetle. Because the dung beetle pushes a lot of weight up a steep hill. And when we get to the top of that hill, the top of that mountain, we see a New Mexico without any poverty. And that's what we're aiming for. So, thank you. We have done all of our work always with other people. I can't think of a single project we've ever done on our own. We've done it with legislative leaders. We've done it with other community organizations, other leaders and community members. And I just want to briefly go through 20 years. I don't have my slides. I'm going fast, okay? So the first thing, we're going to do 20 things. So the first thing we did was we opened in 1996, and that really is thank you to a group of visionary leaders in our state who wanted a champion for New Mexicans who were living in poverty. The next thing we did that we're very proud of was with Joe Goldberg and with Michael Browdy, we won a big case called Taylor v. Johnson, where we stopped a terrible welfare policy that, as people have mentioned, would have kicked a lot of our neediest, I think it was 70,000 people off of welfare assistance.
The court ruled unanimously from the bench in our favor, and the courtroom exploded in applause and cheers, and Bob didn't stay to talk to reporters. He walked outside, and I followed him to be with the constituents that this case was about. That was Bob's first response, is he didn't want to talk to a reporter. It wasn't about him. He wanted to be able to report what had happened to the people whose lives this case was affecting. You know, that was always his first priority.
The third thing we did was we set up a welfare system that we wrote the statute and we wrote the regulations that set up a public assistance program in our state that was about as good as we could make it under the Congress at the time. And I think we should give a big thank you again to Nancy Keenansberg and Ruth Hoffman for that work. Then the board got brave, and they hired this guy named Kim Posage. He was not a known entity at the time. He was this guy from back east. He wasn't, and he's not, a lawyer, thank God. And it was sort of taking a risk. But he came with the background, and he had had results at other work that he had done. And I think that we can all see that he certainly got his job done and a lot more. With Maureen Sanders, and I know Maureen's here somewhere, at least she, hi Maureen. Maureen was one of my law school professors, as was Ruth. With Maureen Sanders and the ACLU, we brought interpretation and translation services to about 30,000 New Mexicans at UNM Hospital. We did this by filing and then quickly settling a lawsuit that we did with a group of community organizations. And after winning or settling and to us winning at that point that lawsuit, at UNM, a Presbyterian hospital also quickly followed suit and also set up interpretation and translation services for its non-English speaking patients. We worked with a broad coalition of legal service providers, including Bill Strauss, and I know Ed Marks and many others are in the room tonight, to lead lobbying efforts that have brought about over $16 million of state money to support civil legal services in our state.
We learned that about 18,000 people a year were being turned away by our legal aid providers, and that we needed about $8 million in order to help these people have access to our court system. So we needed somebody who would speak for the poor. Had it not been for the efforts of Kim Posich and the Center on Law and Poverty, that would never have happened, because he was careful to make sure that the legislators were informed, that they voted in favor of this piece of legislation, that the governor's office had all of the information they needed, and then he didn't stop there. We persisted year after year after year.
With the Southwest Organizing Project, we worked with residents of Pajarito Mesa to bring water to that community for the first time. We worked with Senator Sanchez to pass the Loan Repayment Assistance Act so that new lawyers could work in public interest jobs. I'm at number 9. We convinced the Human Services Department to change their practice so that babies wouldn't lose Medicaid on their first birthday. Now that was a good one. We compelled the state to deliver emergency food benefits on time to 77,000 New Mexicans who needed it the most. And I have to tell you that this is a problem, like many of the things that we work on, that kind of doesn't quite go away. So we fix it and then it pops back up. And as our public benefits team that's here tonight knows, we're still working on emergency food stamps issues. Number 11, over the years we've increased and diversified our funding and secured some multi-year investments that make it possible for us to take on big multi-year campaigns. Number 12, we've trained over 1,000 advocates in our state on immigrant access to public benefits, and we work with the Human Services Department now to ensure that immigrants in our state are enrolled on the public benefits programs that they're entitled to. 13, we won court decisions striking down the exclusion of agricultural laborers from workers' compensation, and the court found this to be unconstitutional discrimination. That was a good one. Number 14, we took the state to court to restore Medicaid and food assistance to over 80,000 New Mexicans who were stuck in a bureaucratic backlog. 15, we stood with New Mexico's tribes and pueblos to win a key Medicaid policy decision so that Native Americans could maintain control over their health care, something that they have a right to do. We won a critical pay increase for some of the poorest workers in our state, farm workers, ensuring that our Department of Workforce Solutions actually enforced the correct minimum wage for our field workers. And we led a collaborative campaign to persuade the governor to expand Medicaid to over 220,000 low-income adults.
Today, we can have healthcare for everyone. Today, we're dancing for the right for our healthcare.
We took on the project of fixing our public education system by filing a lawsuit against the state that is seeking a massive increase in funding and increased educational opportunities for our low-income English language learner and Native American students. We protected access to food assistance for tens of thousands of low-income New Mexicans by blocking a bungled bureaucratic requirement that the state was trying to impose. And number 20, we passed a bill to ensure that incarcerated New Mexicans have access to Medicaid services upon their release. And we hope that in 20 years, when we're having this event again, that tonight will be number one on the list of one of our things that we're very proud of that we did, which is to bring this great group of people together. So thank you for being here.